Hello, this is Heather Gates, and I welcome you to the Stand in the And podcast, where we have honest conversations about the messy complexity of the human experience, where we get stuck, and how we find forward in the and of it all where many things are true at once. This podcast is designed especially for those of us who want to make things more beautiful and better for everyone, and sometimes need reminding that we are human too. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, y'all. I am joined today by my dance buddy and fellow imaginer, Meghan O'Malley. Meghan, thanks so much for standing in the and with me today.
I live in the and I'm so happy to be here and have this conversation.
Yeah,
It's so fun.
You said our topic is one of your favorites, so I can't wait to see where we go with it. But I do want to give you the opportunity, which now after being on your podcast and doing the same, I realize is not an easy ask as I thought it was. But I want you to introduce yourself to us in a way that feels meaningful to you.
So I'm Meghan O'Malley, and I am professionally speaking, a former therapist who kind of outgrew my relationship with that paradigm and became a coach, and am currently wrestling with that label because basically I'm here to help people remember who they are and create relationships, communities, and ecosystems based in that rather than self-abandonment and conformity and this sense that we're supposed to be someone other than who we are. And I say that, and that sounds really cute and flowery, but it's really hard. It's really scary. And the nervous system response to that in our current world is a mountain to climb. So I live, I play, and I work in that space of alchemy and becoming.
Becoming, just to connect two words that you said that feel so important to me, it's becoming and it's remembering.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you say you help people remember, it's been such an interesting part of my own personal journey to realize at some point, like, oh, a lot of this is about unlearning and remembering. So it resonates. Your intention resonates with me about what the work is. I have to say, I was talking to my son in the kitchen this morning about what I was going to be up to today. Said we had a podcast with my friend Meghan O'Malley. And he's like, I've heard that name before. And I was like, really? I mean, I said, really? Are you sure? I mean, maybe. But then we just decided that Meghan O'Malley sounds like a famous person's name, right? He's like, I feel like I want to say I saw her in that movie. And I'm like, right? Maybe she should be a famous actress. So
I welcome any of the...
Just so you know.
my Leo-ness is like, great. I'll be famous. I'll talk about what's on my heart. Let's go.
Yeah. So the famous Meghan O'Malley is here. And I will share with y'all how Meghan O'Malley came famous to me. Or how we met. I think it's like not how our paths crossed, but how they crossed twice. So in the work that you do, a shared acquaintance of ours just asked me, like, oh, have you ever heard of Meghan O'Malley's work? And I was like,
the famous
no.
Meghan O'Malley?
Yeah, I said, oh, wait, the famous Meghan O'Malley? I think I've heard of her. But I had not, or I wasn't sure if I had. So I looked you up on the internet and I was reading about it. And then you zoom in on the little tiny circle on LinkedIn or wherever. And I was like, wait a second. That's Meghan O'Malley, who indeed I knew because I have been dancing next to you at the YMCA on Saturday mornings for approximately 2 years. And as one does, I guess we just show up and are like, how are you today? But you don't talk about your work stuff in that setting. So our re-meeting was me saying, hey, somebody thinks we should talk more about, what we're up to in the world. That quickly led us to find shared fire about a lot of things. And I think part of what excites me about our conversations is how differently we actually are coming at them to get to the same place. And so just the kind of the exercise of thinking with you is exciting for me But I just think that that story is really fun, and one of the things that stands out even from that first real conversation that we had outside of the gym, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but is your, fire around the holy both and?
Yeah, I've
Is
said
that
that
what you
for
call
years.
it? Is that the
I call
language?
it the holy both and
Yeah,
because at some point on my journey of personal and professional growth, I realized so much human angst is the result of not embracing the paradox that we are. It's
period.
the
I just
it's
wanna, like, can we just tag that the whole point of the podcast? So, yes, tell me more.
Yeah, I think we are taught, and parts of our neurology like to do this, to box ourselves into either or. And if we're in a trauma response, a fear response, that's literally what our brain wants to do. It wants to either or, black and white thinking. And so there's this, but that creates inner turmoil because we are vast. We are creatures that are, we contain multitudes. We are all of these things, even the things that we swear we're not. We're kind of that in some way. And so when we start to go, yeah, I'm a coach, a former therapist, a spiritual, blah, blah, blah. And I throw down in hip hop class and my playlist would hurt a lot of ears. Like I'm all of that.
Right.
And that gives me a sense of freedom internally that I believe lets me relate to others in a way that's far more loving and accepting.
Well,
I don't
in
need people to be in their own boxes for me if I'm not boxing myself.
in loving, accepting internal first,
Yeah.
right? And I've talked on the podcast before, I think on the parts episode about just the making peace with myself of we are all of these things. But just I really how you articulated that even like the resistance of the and creates inner turmoil. So we're
Yeah.
talking on here a lot about the tensions, right, that we
Yeah.
find in the and those tensions within the and is part of maybe, and I don't know that I've ever named it this way, Megan, but the resistance of the
Yeah.
reality is where we find ourselves. And then we can kind of settle in and honor that many things are true. It feels a little more um, easeful. So, yeah, as you can imagine, when I start talking about the and you already have been thinking about the quote, holy both and for a long time, that this is just a place. Um, and I guess similarly for me, it was in my own journey where I just realized how seeing the whole picture um, felt more, not even just more authentic, but more gentle and honest to hold myself instead of fighting with kind of what side naturally am I supposed to fall on. So
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to you about what the and means. You're coming at this as a scholar of the and, I think.
Practitioner
A
of the
practitioner
and,
of the and, I love that,
a,
we should
a
make a whole thing.
devotee. I'm
A
devoted to the and.
devotee.
As we talk, I keep having this image, and I think it speaks to those who are listening, perhaps.
Yeah,
There's this idea, and I don't actually know where you buy these things anymore, but I know they exist and people used to use them a lot. Shoehorns. So it's kind of
yeah,
like if you had a pair of shoes that are too small, you know, they feel a kind of way. It's confining, it rubs, it creates blisters. That's that smaller identity, I think. And then there's the shoehorn, it creates a stretch, or you have to wear them in with your bigger foot to stretch them out. And that's that nervous system recalibration to integrate
mm,
newer understandings of self or life. But then after what you just named is like, it does feel softer. It does feel more comfortable. It does feel more full of ease and capacity, but we don't get that without the stretching. And I
mm,
think that's where my work lives right now, is in the space in between. And it's not a sexy
mhm,
space. It's not fun. People try and avoid it. There's all kinds of businesses, marketing, ways to bypass it. And maybe sometimes it works, but a lot of times it doesn't. And it leaves people feeling like failures. But if we normalize the messy muck and just the natural part of the stretch, I think it takes a lot of the sting out.
We are gonna get into our topic, but this is a fascinating conversation to me, so I just wanna linger here for another minute. So when I hear you say that of kind of we are the shoe and then we're going to work on stretching it out and that's uncomfortable. I'm holding that from a like a nervous system stretch, right? I think as you're describing it, like we have to stretch into that bigger space. And if that bigger space is the and the all of it, right? If that's what you're, is that what you're saying? It's like we have to stretch into our ability to hold all of that, or what is the stretch there for you?
So for me, I'm the foot, and my relationship to life or life, my identity, my nervous system, my life context is the shoe. So all of that has to be recalibrated and stretched for the foot that is me to not be in chronic pain.
And what's interesting for me, so back, I think maybe even episode one, when I introduced the I think it feels important to me to say that I don't feel like I'm trying to sell the or I'm trying to help people figure out how to make the true. I'm trying to help us see it's already true.
It's
And
always
then,
happening.
and then perhaps culture makes it tight, but it's almost like the shoehorn is part of the remembering or something.
That's
I
it.
don't know if I'm messing up
That's
the
it.
metaphor, but
No,
that
that's it.
it's not a matter of like, oh, we got to kind of push reality to fit the It's like reality to me already so much is in the It's all the other things, likely culture, that squeezes us into a place that's too small. And so it's removing kind of that, the clutter and the cobwebs of the shoulds
Yeah.
that let it take up the space that is more about a remembering, right?
Yeah.
It's becoming through remembering. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's fascinating, and I'll keep thinking about that. I love another
Well,
thing you and I love is a good metaphor. So we could tell
it
this whole thing in pictures.
totally. Well, and I think we originally talked about speaking on the concept of surrender and control and things like that, and I think a lot of what has expanded my metaphorical shoe hasn't been me saying I want a bigger shoe. It's been life creating a big enough blister for me to have to look at the shoe. I have been surrendered by life context and situations. And it's then for me to respond to that and respond with curiosity and even if possible, and it's a tough ask a lot of times to find gratitude for the being surrendered by life that loves me more than I know to love myself in my mind, that wants a bigger shoe for me
Okay, we're
than
gonna get
I've ever
into
been
it.
shown, ever been, a bigger shoe than anyone in my family has ever had. Those kinds of concepts. And that's what's helped me. And I'm a very, spiritually oriented person. That's something that has really served me, not religious, but spiritual. And seeing that there's a loving force or believing that there's something with greater intelligence than my humanity that
Mm,
wants something more for me in those moments of struggle has been helpful.
I can't wait to dig into this because I know that I can.
How many
I can.
hours do we have?
Right. I'm like, y'all know I am not sorted out in this department. Um, I do want to honor us as humans in a body and a world before we get into the kind of headiness of this more and just see if there's anything that you want to honor about the that you're showing up in today, not necessarily the topic that we're going to share. I know you have a lot of exciting things going on. I don't know if now's the time to mention them, but
It's part of my and, so sure.
what are you standing in as you show up today? And then I'll do the
I'm standing
same.
in a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always standing in
Cheers.
a lot. But what is very real and feels vulnerable to share as an entrepreneur, which, that's where I like to lead from, is I am here as a heart-centered entrepreneur who is very purpose-driven, who has a book that came out last year, a TEDx that I did in March that is coming out soon online. So I have this um, checkbox fanciness that is real.
Famous. P.S.
And I'm famous.
Yeah,
I'm the famous Megan
obviously.
O'Malley who has a book and a TEDx.
Right.
And I'm showing up as a human who for the past several days, I have been in a state of, what am I even doing? Is it even working? Is it even going to be received by the world? Because I went through a full rebrand as I was writing my TEDx because, I like to do things the really easy way. Um, and so I'm sitting in this sense of like, I have this very real sense of, look at the opportunities life is giving me to serve and to do what's mine to do. Look at how generous. And is my humanity doing it right? Is my humanity doing it fully enough? Am I resting enough? Am I honoring? I mean, it's just all that kind of human
Yeah.
questioning is showing up with this sense of awe and gratitude and trust in what's unfolding.
I just feel like every entrepreneur out there listening, I just got chills when you said that because I'm like, gosh, it just feels so true. Like the
Yeah.
clarity and the taking up space and the second guessing that washes over and it's not a steady state to me, like any of these ands, it's moments and waves and ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're sitting in the big and the I'm still a human with thoughts. And I think
Yeah.
I appreciate the vulnerability about telling the truth about that. I think it's a real service for people who are, you work with people who are trying to imagine and become and remember and take up as much space as they will. And same for me is I want people to know that even though what it looks like is everybody like looks great on video and nailed their content, that we all have waves of this very human um, mental chatter.
And it's part
Right.
of the becoming. That's the
Yeah.
that's the reframe is, it's essential. It's
Hmm.
the last podcast episode I did on my podcast was about the real path to becoming a speaker on a TEDx stage.
Hmm.
Because talking with other speakers, I wasn't the only one that felt psychically and egoically pummeled by the process. And
Mm.
we had great support. We had, it wasn't anyone's fault. It was the process of becoming the one who can hold that space and clarify that message and do it with grace and presence and all that. It required pressure. Like, pressure
Hmm.
forms the diamond, grit forms the pearl, right? Like, nature doesn't take it personally. We do. And
Yes, fair. Yeah.
and
I'm like,
so
ugh. Hmm.
I have, with my therapy background, shame is the thing that paralyzes people the most. Shame and a sense of aloneness. And so the more I can use my life to de-shame what is often universal experience that is hidden in the closets of our human experience, I'm going to do it.
Same.
And if that makes me look messy, if that makes me look whatever, then you're not my people. If
Right.
that
Look
makes you feel
away.
safe, if that makes
Right.
you feel safe and like, "Oh, she gets me, she can guide me, she can help me," then I'm the one, and I'm gonna ride for you, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I love it. I feel the same. I mean, human centered strategy is our business, and the human part just matters so much. And I'm like, pretending is exhausting, and isolating and creates aloneness. So I'm just trying to be, I think I did a podcast on yours where I really talked about, I think authenticity is a value and just trying to show up and figure it out. Um, I want to get into so quick and stand from me. Um, yeah, I think that I'm standing in a lot right now in a really different way. Um, but what resonates with me is I feel both fired up and grounded. And that's important for me just to name in my own journey because for a long time, being really fired up about things, whether in an intense excitement or anger way, like fired up can be a lot. Fired up to me could be like hair on fire, running around catching other people on fire. So to have fired up and grounded feels, yeah, much smoother. It was, again, I can only think in pictures. Um, Years ago, I think in therapy or coaching was like, I want to be more like lava. Like, it's still hot, but it's smoother and flowy. So I'm leaning into my lava energy right now, I think, where things feel hot. I feel really passionate about some things right now, and maybe with this kinda gets to surrender, I don't know, will kind of this go with the flow smoothness. When I think of lava, I think of the flowy kind that's kind of touches the earth. So I feel connected to the ground, um, and fired up. So I'll try to stay I get really, excited and passionate, so I'll try to continue to sit in that. So let's go though, because I don't want us to, run out of time pondering other things. Y Our topic today is indeed the "and" of control and surrender. So again, I had my morning
Your
let me
face.
tell you, my I'm like, What is this, realm that we're living in that this felt like a good idea to me?" So I told my son again this morning I was gonna talk to the famous Meghan O'Malley, and I said, "And, we're gonna talk about control and surrender because I have surrender fully figured out, and I feel like we should tell everybody about it." And I wish I had a video of my son's face as he grin smirks and side eyes me and then has some little snarky conversation with the cat about their observations of me. So I will enter this acknowledging that surrender is my growth. Right. I tend to think like in these ands, I usually feel like my natural tendency leans one direction or the other sometimes. And my natural tendency leans control on this one. But tell me more. When you think about you love this conversation, what is the holy both and of control and surrender? What do those words mean? Let's just unpack it and see where it goes.
Okay. I feel like I need to name a little bit of the origin of what got me
Yeah,
here.
sure.
So because I don't want to give any illusions that I am showing up as a um a master of surrender.
Well,
What
darn.
I want to name is that I grew up at very conditioned, parentified child, good student. I learned control very early as my security blanket,
Mhm.
and I kept it close. So I was very good at controlling how I was perceived. I was very good at controlling my achieving. I was very good at, because I'm an empath and an intuitive, at feeling other people and then adapting accordingly. I was very good at that. And I had anxiety, undiagnosed because I was so high functioning, but I had skin issues. I had migraines. I now, through my somatic training and my own journey, I realized all of that was my body trying to tell me, girl, this is not sustainable. You cannot live like this. But it was the only way I knew and the only way I knew to survive during a time when it actually did help me. So I want to name control served me in the way that I needed in a certain life context when I didn't have power and sovereignty and true agency as a kid. In my adult life, I have been guided by life. I mean, first of all, deciding to be an entrepreneur is signing up for a spiritual journey and a journey in the dance between control, agency, and surrender. Like, it's going to be a thing
Facts.
because our energy and our presence and our what we do is always a call and response to the world. We're always doing what we can, but then seeing how it lands. So I've had that. I've had two divorces. I'm a parent. Like, I've had all of these opportunities to feel where my intention ends and where life meets it, And so I use human design in my work, and it's all over my chart to learn heart-centered endings, letting go, all that kind of fun stuff. So I have been in that dance, in that exploration, in that journey, adventure, whatever you want to call it, for decades now. And that brings me to now, which is I think we're all as humans on this continuum of control, which in my mind, control always has roots in fear. Control is wanting to get ahead of something, wanting to control a future because I don't feel supported, I feel alone, or I don't feel like life is inherently benevolent. So those fear-based roots are trying to grab something so that I know I'm okay. Agency is in the middle of that continuum for me. Agency is participation. I am taking my humanity and I am bringing it fully to this moment, to this situation. I'm doing what is mine to do, but I'm not gripping for or forcing. I'm just here fully. And then surrender has two sides. One is and it's debatable whether we can actually surrender or if we're always surrendered and then just finally give up and let go. But when I choose to open my palms and be curious and wonder and focus on being receptive rather than even fully participating sometimes, because sometimes I just don't know. I don't know what the thing is to do yet. And then the other is when life goes, look at her, she's gripping, she's doing the thing, she's trying to force something and it's not in her highest good. So life will be really cute. And at best, slap my hand or give me a little whisper. At worst, brings out the sledgehammer and destroys something big. And then, but here's the thing. The times I've been most surrendered, it has sucked. It has been awful. And hindsight is a gift. It has been the most effective, efficient, loving gift to me. Like even
Mm,
my relationship with my dad, which I was estranged from my dad for a long time. He was a emotionally abusive guy. It wasn't good. The becoming that forced, the generational healing that forced, that I can now see at almost 47 years old was such a gift. I would never wish it on anyone. But that forced surrender of letting go of what I wanted, what I thought I wanted, what I dreamed of, what I kept trying to force and make happen, it it forged something in me. And
mm.
and I can say that about all of these big, losses, griefs, whatever. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat. I want to be really clear. Like my humanity kicks and screams about these things still sometimes. But overall, I see it as something I wasn't willing to let go of because I'm stubborn as hell. And life made it abundantly clear that it was time, that I couldn't evolve. I couldn't be me with that in my life or in my
Yeah.
relational field.
So things that come up for me when I hear that story, one is I think listening to your early kind of sharing around control. So just acknowledge that piece. I think a lot of what you've described, I probably have called in my own storytelling perfectionism, which just feels like, the act of holding the sword of control, maybe, right?
Mhm.
Like
And
maybe
being
that's,
perceived by others. That's
yeah,
how I
that's
define perfectionism. And like,
that
I need to be
external
seen.
piece of it.
Hmm.
I also want to add that for me, a learning, again, in some of these things, I'm about to turn 48, so we're about the same life timeline there, is control. I appreciate you honoring the role that control serves us when we need it, right? I think somebody who now understands my hypersensitivities and my, right, all of overexcitability, all of those things that are me, kind of helping feel I'll use the word safe, but I think it's more just trying to be regulated in an environment, right? A lot of these things that may come across as I'm trying to be controlling of how loud the TV is or how loud, and I'm just learning like, oh, I'm just trying not to be overstimulated all the time. And so it's been an interesting, like these words, they're so complicated or complex individually. And maybe that pulls me more. And I would not, if I drew a line chart, I think you just drew it control, agency, surrender. You put agency in the middle. That's interesting to me because you and I had a little brain tangle when we talked last time about the difference between agency and control.
Yeah.
So that's just an interesting frame that I wanna name there because I think agency is so important when we have it, and I don't know actually if that like, how my mental model would create, some other thing around it that's environmental, that's like when it's safe enough, when we can,
Of course.
all these all these places, and then surrender as a thing that sometimes you do and sometimes you experience.
Yeah,
Right? It's like you're the driver and sometimes so I think of, um yeah, it feels more like a decision sometimes than others. Like, "Oh, I think I'm finally" and to your point, it's like, "Oh, maybe I'm finally just gonna put down the illusion that I can control this even if I wanted to," versus something more extreme is happening in life that that creates that. One last thing I'll say about this is, as I was pondering this conversation too, is I think I've mentioned to you before, as I'm kinda sometimes get lost in myself and I'm reminded, like, zoom way back out to say, "Okay, what am I? What matters?" Like, I am the power of nature plus emotion, choice, and voice. That power of nature part probably is more the surrender, like, I'm like a tree and I bloom and the leaves fall off, and it's more this bigger kind of natural ebb and flow of it, and then the choice and the voice part probably puts me back to navigating some space between control and agency to say, it's really discernment around a decision sometimes, right? Like, how am I going to 'cause I get tangled up a lot, let me say it more simply, in where do I have agency or where do I not? Like, I might think I have
totally.
more, right, than I do. So, what choices do I wanna make? Where do I wanna have voice? Does that is that gonna have influence? I think about this a lot, and I think my audience who, there's the this and applies to us just kinda personally as we're interacting with our life experience, and often in engaging in a big issue that we want to help improve. Right? So that might mean what do we wanna do about adolescent mental health? What do we wanna do about, the state of affairs of an industry? And, right, this notion of, like, surrender, I think sometimes where I get itchy about surrender and why I think people are like, "That's not your jam," is it can feel sometimes like just hands off the wheel, whatever.
Yeah.
Right, and so there's that, like, it'll be what it'll be and it'll work out. Because sometimes I feel like we do that too much and we forget that we do have agency in the middle, that even if we can't do a thing, we can influence other things that help change that. So this just gets real tangly to me, Megan, when I think about all the parts
And I
at
love it
play.
because I love conversations that are tankily, right?
Yeah,
And so what I want to name, and this I just wrote down while
yeah,
we're having this conversation is, I keep seeing because we're visual people, that continuum. And I see fear and control as protective, which we need protection sometimes, right? I see agency as creative. I believe humans are
mm,
inherently creative beings. And I see fear focused on future. I see agency focused on the present. And I see surrender as co creative. We bring our agency to meet something bigger. Now, however you define that, whether that's nature, whether that's an ecosystem of humans, whether that is divine intelligence, whether it's God, I really don't care. But it's this idea that it's my full agency with something else in service of new potential. So
mm,
it's not, I'm not trying to control the future. I am bringing my full creative intelligence to an emergent future potential. So
mm.
I don't see surrender as passive. I see it as opening our hands enough to let something else come in rather than kind of gripping. And
I need a new word then, right? So when I think about, like, I'm not trying to control the future. Let's say, I'll pick an example that feels real to me, is I feel really passionately right now about conversations around responsible AI
Mhm.
that keep um, technology in service of human flourishing. So I'm not trying to can we use the word influence? From a place of agency where I have creativity, I am trying. It feels true to me. Tell me how you see it. Is when I have a here's what I imagine um as a future state. I am trying to influence the collective ecosystem that it ends up that way. So it's not
What about contribute? Influence even feels controlling to me when I hear it.
really.
Yeah. Impact doesn't. And this is where
That's
it's we can
interesting.
unpack language a million,
Yeah,
we
and I
all
don't
have
know that that's helpful.
associations
I
and
just for now, like, let's give it a word because
mhm,
I don't wanna lose that. Like, so my whole career, our work in the field is that and when you work in systems change and policy
totally.
change, like, you are trying to change a reality in some way, or you're trying to co-create, you're trying to what is the word you said?
So co-create or contribute, but here's something that
Contribute.
might help. So I was listening to a podcast not long ago. I feel bad that I can't remember what it was. That's the way my
Shout
brain
out
works.
to whoever it is.
Yeah, shout out energetically to whoever that was.
Right.
But she was talking about high functioning codependency, and she was talking about control. And she said control assumes that we know the answer. And that's the part that I think gets tangled when we're talking about positive change is it can teeter towards a bit of a narcissistic lens. Like I know what needs to happen. Whereas co-creation and bringing your full creative agency but leaving a little space for what you don't know
Sure.
is different, and I think we don't because Americans and English language, we don't have enough verbal nuance in our language to name that well, but I think it gets collapsed. And impact and influence and control for a lot of people is like, I know what this needs to be, make it so. And there's a weird thing that can happen because of course we want justice. Of course we want people to be safe. Of course we want people to be fed. Of course all these things, of course, but the path toward it has many doorways and
Right,
has
right, right,
many
right.
factors and it gets a little messy because our brains want certainty. Our identities and our egos want to know.
And I can get on board with the idea that right, so even if that's the intention, that's the North Star, that's the mission statement that we're moving toward.
Yeah.
And we still have to move forward with an
Mhm.
intention
Yeah.
that any one individual should not assume they have all the answers. I think that points to collaborative process. It points to trust in group understanding. So when I say I'm trying to influence, it's not necessarily, but it is how I am going to express my agency
That's it.
with others. Always humbled by I can only know a piece of it, but from what I do know, here's what I think. Because I don't want to give away the like, I have opinions and this does not feel like the path. So, what can we do together to contribute to a future that we imagine? And there's some, I guess, the surrender in that is more, it might look a little bit different, or I'm going to stay open to possibility and a path. But I don't want to surrender to the like, well, we'll just let those folks figure it out. And here's what that probably will look like.
I don't think that's surrender. I think that's being passive.
That's interesting difference. Because to me,
Yeah.
surrender, when I hear the language, like I said, it feels like hands off the wheel. And that's not how you imagine it.
No, it's very and
Okay.
it's probably being shaped by I did a year-long intensive leadership training through the Coactive Training Institute, and everything was based in the co. It was bringing your full authentic self and learning how to dance with other, learning how to dance with the space between. That was the leadership model that I was steeped in. Gosh, it's been over 10 years. So it's a part of how I move and how I think and how I kind of my lens on life. And so for me, surrender is remembering the co, whether it's the co of I'm in a partnership and I need to remember to be curious about this other person's lens, or on a team and I need to remember this is part of why I love human design.
Yeah.
That we all have different
They're different.
strategies and needs so that people are honored and the gets to exist. Or on the spiritual level, I am here building my business, doing what I'm here to do, trying my best to understand what is my piece of the puzzle, and then practicing being receptive to guidance beyond what I think I know,
Yes, then.
to weave that in.
I can do so maybe I've just been trying on the wrong I can try on that version of surrender that is more a process surrender. It's
Yeah.
a surrender
There's an
to
alchemy to it.
yeah, I can surrender to the alchemy and to the what are we making together, which is different than being passive about something I feel passionately is in injustice or
Yeah.
not in the well-being of humans flourishing and those sorts of things. Like, I am going to exert agency and co-create and do what I can with others and all the other entangling things around us to try to create that. And maybe that's the difference is in this energy of creating. Like you said, agency feels creative to you and control feels grabby. So it may be even more, it's maybe less even about surrender and it's about the difference in control and agency to say,
Or protection and creativity, because
to
we're
kind of
always dancing with that as humans.
to open up to the creativity among us all. So given that the word, I mean, part of this even is just the words. Yeah, I anybody who works with me knows all the time that I'm big into common language and common understanding because we get so stuck in it. We think even with common language like, "Oh, Megan's talking about surrender. Here's how I think about that." We think about it really differently. And then you peel the onion back and realize that you're defining the word really in a different conceptual way than I think about it. You think about the way I was thinking about surrender in a way that you would call really passive. And there
Or
still is
apathy.
well, or acceptance sometimes. So let me give a different example. So when I think about let's just try this word on a little bit. When I think about things that I feel surrendered to right now, um, we are going to not be in this office after another week or two, and I feel very sad about that. My kiddo is going away to college. I feel surrendered to the reality that I cannot control that is those things. I don't necessarily feel like a co-creator, have agency in it. What I have agency around in it is honoring the and where sometimes I'm really fired up or sometimes I'm sad, but the open-handedness of this is happening and I'm just gonna roll with it. So maybe that's something different. Maybe that's acceptance. If we wanna just bring nuance, is I accept that this is happening. I don't know how that word fits. I think I've been
I
using
feel that
surrender
as
to mean
part
a
of
lot of
surrender.
things.
It can, and I think
Yeah,
in my experience, and I've seen it in friends and clients, when I accept, and that is a version of surrender for me, like, "Oh, this is what's happening. This is what's happening." Instead of trying for for your example, the control would look like, "I'm gonna try and talk this landlord into keeping me in my office."
right,
Right? There's
right.
a I wanna force what I think I want. Whereas the surrendered energy for me is, "This is happening." But the agency comes in solving the new puzzle that's in front of you. So
Right.
the agency
So
would be
now what
like,
am I gonna do about it?
"So now what's the pivot? I have creative opportunity here. This or something better. This or something better." And that's a mantra that has saved me when I've been in multiple leaps of faith. Like, "Okay, this is not what I wanted. It's happening. This or something better. My creative intelligence and my relationships on all levels, my connections, my whatever, help me solve this puzzle. Like, I'm here for it. I'll do what's mine to do. I'm going to do my best not to force things that aren't for me."
Let
And
me
it's
just
it's messy. It's
yeah, I
messy
just wanna
because
let that soak in for you just that was a lot, I think, that you just said is your approach to again, I think it's the discernment if we dig into the words a little bit between, uh or the dance, the and of effort or agency and acceptance.
Tons of
So
nuance
it's
there.
tons of nuance, and so often for me, it's like acceptance first, and then I can take some kind of action, and it's a tool in the toolkit. So again, examples just to be more specific, I am at acceptance that my kids are gonna leave the house and do their thing. I am not at acceptance for some of what I see around, um, technology use, right? I understand that it's that way, but not in a I'm gonna it is what it is and whatever. Or maybe I am. Maybe I'm like, this is what it is. And now where do I have agency? Back to what you just said. Where do I have agency? What is mine? That's an important piece of it. Because there is another layer of acceptance to me of what is not. Even in an issue, if we take these just big
Yep,
issues,
yep,
adolescent mental health, these big issues, mission statements on the wall, sometimes we're holding an organizational lens to this question. What's
yeah,
ours to hold? Sometimes I'm holding it
yep,
as a what's Heather's to hold, figuring out what in the whole thing am I going to have exert some agency around, lean into creating. And part of maybe acceptance is there's a piece of the circle, the layer of the onions that I'm not gonna, it's still there and I'm not gonna try to change it. So I am a lot in this dance
yeah. I think
between
we all
agency
are,
between
those that
agency and
care.
acceptance.
And for me, acceptance is not the same as agreement or consent.
Agree 1,000%.
It is not the same. Acceptance is the stance that allows us to not get tangled and drained by resistance and allows us to keep moving forward. Like this is happening. I I
I
don't
do
agree
not
with it. I
like it.
don't like it. I
Don't
don't
like
like
it,
it.
don't
I
want
don't
it.
want it. I don't choose it. None of that. But it is so far beyond my sphere of control or my zone of genius or whatever it is that I cannot attempt to control it because to do that means I don't get to move forward and contribute.
Hmm.
I'm stuck in resisting life. And
Well,
if
and
we all do our piece, my belief is there's there's a lot of human potential if we all do
yes.
what is ours to rather than trying to do it all because we think we should have some superhuman cape that is gonna fix the broken world. It doesn't work that way. It's unsexy incremental changes.
Water the orchid. All
Yes,
right?
yes.
Water your sticks and leaves, orchid. So just to call out, I think in this, I'm always interested in naming the and, honoring where we get tangled up in it. And then
Yeah,
what tools might we have to help people find forward in that? So we've already talked a lot about, I mean, in this one, there's tangly even in what the words might mean or what they think they mean and what our approach there is. It gets tangly in there's so much nuance, even, control and agency are different, acceptance and surrender are different, passivity is different. Like there's a lot of texture in here
yeah.
that the discernment is very specific. And I mean, I think we get tangled up anytime that we're decision making. There's just you're trying to wrestle with depending, right? Depending on how dialed in and where you kind of are getting your clarity around, is this a place for me to have agency? What do I accept it? Like we get in the or of it. What is my lane? How do we figure that out? And it can be, I think we can get stuck in overwhelm sometimes too.
Yeah.
Where do you think in this conversation and your experience, either as yourself or in working with others, where do you see people get stuck? Is it really in the resistance side of it, as you mentioned in the very beginning of the podcast, or where do you see the kind of tensions show up in this conversation?
I mean, I think the greatest thing I see that is the stuck point are fear and shame. Like
Mm,
fear of I can't bear the idea of and I often work with people who are in a place where they're being asked by their inner guidance or life to make a big shift. So, leaving a steady corporate job to start their own purpose-driven business, or leaving a relationship, or I'm often that's the space I'm in, and the fear of, I'm one who knows myself to do this, be this, and to
Mm,
shift into someone who doesn't know, who isn't certain, who doesn't have a plan, who doesn't have a steady paycheck. All these things, I think fear is inherently paralyzing, and that's why so much of my work has culminated in this awareness that it's about helping people cultivate a different relationship with change and with fear. That's what my whole TEDx was about. And it's not about finding the perfect plan. There are tons of coaches who will charge lots and lots of money to say they have the perfect plan for you. And I'm not saying there aren't people with good guidance out there, but the the truth and the path is, I believe, emergent in nature and uniquely designed for each person. There's no expert that can tell you the right way. There are people who can guide you back home to your remembering. And
mm.
that's what I do. And that fear keeps people stuck, it keeps people sick, it keeps people disenchanted with life, it keeps people helpless and hopeless and trying to control a bunch of stuff that actually isn't a priority because they don't wanna look at the things that they're scared to change. And then the shame of being the secret shame of, I'm living a life I should be proud of, and I'm not. I'm living a life that should make me happy, and it doesn't.
Mhm.
And that guilt and shame I see keeping people really stuck as well.
When you just described your some of the work that you do, I'm reminded of, the episode where I talked to the guest about being an authenticity doula, and it feels like
Mhm.
that's what you're doing for folks too. It's
I
such an
used to
important role.
say I was a magical possibility doula. I help people
Nice.
remember what's possible beyond what they ever told themselves they could dream up, because I do have a deep and fierce belief in the creative potential within humans and the deep wisdom. It is
I
something
agree.
I will stand on, I will stand on, I will stand on. We limit ourselves, and I limit myself. I'm one of the people. I live
Yeah.
my work. I realize my limits over and over and over again, where I'm confining myself to a too small life and a too small self. But um I mean, that's why I use the term magic for so long in my work, is it felt like magic what I saw happen for people. The healing, the relational shifts, it just is awe-inspiring.
And I would say my lens on that is the inspiration that comes not only from our own, possibility, but from collective. So much of my work is in
Absolutely.
facilitation
Yeah,
and bringing people together to build connection and strategy and complexity with each other.
that's it.
And and so often, I get this is where I'll just get really fired up about this is I do want us to remember our agency on these
Totally.
big things that we care about, right? To remember our creative potential, not only on our own, but together and what we can make. I'm not supposed to say the word influence because that feels controlly, but
You can. You can say
I
it.
I
Say
still
your
wanna
words.
say that we can shape I mean, to your point, you're trying to help imagine, right? You're imagining and possibility and bigger. I
I'm creating
believe
ripples. Yeah.
part of what I'm saying, like, when I say I believe in human flourishing
Yeah.
for everyone, I believe in our potential. I believe in moving in that direction. I think what you're reminding me of is not to get too grippy about what exactly that looks like, and I can still be passionately in service to paying attention to and changing and talking about what feels like it's out of alignment with that future possibility. I believe we can do this together. And, if we just lay your piece on it, that I think you were saying that fear and shame are sometimes in the way. So, let's just call out a couple of tools, Megan. So, if we wanted to help, if people are like, great, that's a lot. It feels tangly, it always has, and it still feels tangly. Thank you for naming the tangle. What tools I know you just did, a TED Talk, so if there are things in there that you wanna call out, but let's just Yeah, how do we navigate this? What does forward look like?
Yeah. So that is my whole TEDx, so
Yeah,
watch it when it's out
so
there,
watch it.
but the bottom line that I found, and this was through a lot of reflection on my own journey and the work I've done over the years, is it comes down to connection, but not just the cute idea of connection. It's connection in 3 directions. So, first, connecting with our own creative intelligence, inner guidance, and the wisdom and intelligence of our nervous systems. We have to learn to regulate our nervous systems if we are to evolve, because our nervous system will keep us sane. That's its job, to keep us safe through sameness. So, that's direction 1, really cultivating a healthy connection with ourselves that's multi-layered. And then the next is connecting outward to each other. Neurologically, if we have healthy relationships and community, we the stress hormones that keep us stuck quiet and our agency becomes more accessible. So if we're regulating our own nervous system, showing up in community, we just our presence impacts that community. There's
Hmm.
really cool research about how our presence and our energy impacts not just our friends, but their friends and their friends' friends. It's three ripples outward. So it's really powerful the way we show up, the essence we show up with, and that's really discounted. And then the last is connecting to something beyond ourselves. And there's really cool research by Dr. Lisa Miller who speaks to she has literally scanned brains of people who had some sense of spiritual connection, not religious. Again, I'm not on some sort of weird evangelical situation here. This is about getting beyond the self to a sense of love, a sense of support, a sense of guidance, whatever it might be. It builds structures in the brain that I wish I could remember the exact research, but it showed significant decrease in depression, anxiety, and addiction. So the ways we get stuck, and most people have some sort of addictive pattern. It doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. When we can get out of that, I mean, goodness, the agency and creative potential that we then have access to because we're not bound by those patterns that keep us stuck is tremendous. But we have to get out of the conditioned story and expectation and pedestaled ideal that we are here to do it all on our own and never ask for help and be sparkly and shiny the whole time. That is a dead end.
Right. Have the brownie patch, tried that, didn't work.
Yeah.
Do not recommend. We're actually works for a minute.
Enough to get gold stars to feed your ego,
Yes.
which is the
Just saying.
self-fulfilling thing.
I
I know,
I
I've
f
done it.
I think it would be a different thing if it didn't if it doesn't have some outcomes. Um,
Our world
so
loves it.
so yes, connection in all the levels, self to others and to something even bigger than that added up, whatever that is. Nature
Yeah.
for me is the place. I mean,
Yep.
I talk on various like it it feels humbling to me. It's connecting, but it's also humbling. Like when I zoom way out and go, I'm made of the same stuff as
We are nature.
stars and dirt and turtles. Um, I just feel grateful to get to be some mixture of all that gets to exist right now, that it feels awe inspiring to me the way this all works. It's where I surrender to all that I don't know about how it all works. Um, it's the zoom out, it's the like way out and see the earth from space kind of view.
Totally.
And then connection to me, I would say, is helpful in a lot of reasons when you talk about connection and relationship to each other. It's also the place to me where joy lives. I think I've said on prior episodes how much joy gives me roots. These things that make us feel connected and belonging and really that are the purpose anyway. So often I think we're kind of
Totally.
seeking something that gets us there. And when you can remember that that's the magic. I do want to double click on some of the things that you said about connection to ourselves. 'Cause there's
Yeah.
a lot in there and we could do a whole
Yeah.
nother episode on that piece. But when we talk about regulating our nervous systems and the way that we show up, that has been the place where so much of me kind of becoming is that work. So I wonder if you have any tips for people who say, "Okay, noted. And now what does that look like? So
Yeah.
where do you point folks who may wanna learn more about this just doesn't feel like I want it to in myself, in my felt body experience? Because that's where, for me, just to kinda go back to it, we called it both control and perfectionism, is I got to a place where it was I could feel that what I was up to was not sustainable or allowing me to step into what my heart wanted to do, but I didn't feel like I mean, I don't know how to explain it to people, but it just felt like the energy, the zhuzhiness in my body was too intense to hold the moment. And certainly I have my own journey that I've been through, but I'm curious for you where you would point people to start to learn more, to be supported in that piece of it, and then we'll start to kind of wrap the
Yeah.
conversation up.
So I have two parts of me that are wanting to grab the mic right now. One is the one that's tried on so many tools and is somatically trained and has all this, all these cool techniques and tools and ideas. But the other, and this is just where I am on my professional journey and my perspective on healing and growth, is the simpler the better. And
Agree.
breath is the most powerful tool we have. It's free. You don't have to have anything special. And we like when we're in an anxious reactive state or dysregulated state, we like to make things hard and overly complex to maintain the overwhelm. And so breath is a tool to show the body a different potential without having to make it complex. So truly, if you breathe in through your nose for the count of 4 and out through your mouth, and sometimes I find it helpful to purse my lips like I've got a straw so it makes the air go slower, and let the exhale be at least a count of 6. So it's going to be longer. If you do 4 to 5 of those, you will feel different about whatever it is that's getting you tangled. And
That's
that's
so helpful.
so short and so
Yeah,
simple.
I
And
love it.
it just creates that shoehorn in our nervous system. So, like, let's say Bob, 2 cubicles over, said something that really wasn't cool. Go into the bathroom and do 6 breaths like that before you respond. It will be different. And I think if we can just create enough of a pause to show our body a different template of potential, it ripples up. That's what I learned through my somatic work is the body is like 95% of what fuels us and motivates us. And it's largely unconscious. So we can sort of lovingly force nudge whatever the body into a different gear that
Mhm.
then ripples up into our thoughts, emotions, and state of being.
Okay, you said pause, it reminds me, and I wish you were here in person because I have a pause button in the
I
car
know.
that I was supposed to bring you, because this is what I'm talking about, y'all, when we talk
That's where
about
agency
pause.
lives, in the pause.
Yes, agency lives in the pause. We have to slow it down, and easier said than done sometimes, but, like, the moment where from activation to action, the space in between, if we can spread it out just a little bit. Megan, I love how small the tool is. And even breath
It's
work.
gotta
So
be
I
simple.
love that you unpacked it even for us more because sometimes we hear about breath work and there are all bunch of different ways to do that. Some count, some are slower, what are faster, but 4 in, 6 out. So the slowing exhale, right? Inhale of 4, exhale of 6, do it a few times. And I think like even the smaller takeaways, just a slow exhale
That's it. That
because
that
you'll
shifts
naturally
the
inhale
nervous system.
a
Mhm.
slow exhale, do a few, see how it shifts your body. And we understand that our energy is contagious, and that's why this is such an important tool.
And good, bad news. Whatever our state of being is, that's what we bring into a room. When I got my Reiki attunements years ago, the Reiki master said to me, she said, "Megan, you have big energy. Whatever you feel, the room will feel. And
Yeah,
that
I'm the
comes
same.
with a level of responsibility." And I'm an Enneagram 1, so I care about my impact a whole lot. And I was like, okay, so it's not about being perfect, but it's about being very mindful
Mindful, I think
and
so
as
too.
responsible as I can be with what I bring into a space. And sometimes if I'm feeling messy, I just need to name it and I bring vulnerability into that space. It's not about always being love and light in a perfected form. But breath is really helpful.
And I made a couple notes about tools too, and I think your breath piece connects to so many of them because I'm thinking about, where we get stuck or where I might get stuck in here is in discernment, is in
Hmm.
decision making, is when do I want to apply
Yep,
agency, when am I accepting or whatever. But I want all of that to come from a grounded place.
that's
So
it.
like first step always is breath. And then we have different capability to be curious, to
Yep.
connect with others, to, right, think about, um, yeah,
And more
just
acceptance.
yeah, more acceptance, different discernment. Our brains are differently so it's almost it is the foundation for all the other tools, whether emotional or strategic or collaborative, um, yeah, whatever those are. And, there certainly are lots of other things people can do to help if that's, go walk around the building to take a deep breath. But yeah, we'll just leave it as an interesting simplicity amidst the complexity of navigating all of this is step one, breathe. Somebody gave me, it just is occurring to me right now. Maybe it was my mom. I've had this little wooden sign for 1,000 years that says, "Don't forget to breathe." And it always felt kind of eye rolly to me. And now I'm like, well, it's been the secret to this whole thing the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, you
Simplicity
know,
is radical right now. I wanna
yeah.
say I often think about how can my life be an act of activism? Like, how
Mm,
can my
I feel
beingness
that.
contribute to the world I say I want? Because I
Yeah, I feel
can't
that.
really say I want a certain world if I'm a hot mess over here and not doing anything about it, and allowing regulation and breathing to be accessible and simple and loving and kind. It feels really important because we this is a conversation for another day, but I think a lot of times tools and techniques are reserved for the very privileged,
I was just thinking about that.
and I think part of my mission is accessibility, and if every kid learned how to regulate their nervous system in the most simple way, if every corporate culture had a foundational 5-minute start to their meeting where there was a nervous system regulation approach that they did regularly, the meetings would be different. The schools would be different, right? And it doesn't need to be some performance of healing. It just is remembering what our bodies are capable of.
There's so much. And I'm just sitting here going, "Ooh, I wanted to talk about trust and how it's related to all of this, but we're gonna have to do that another day or we'll be here another hour."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I wanna honor the complexity and the simplicity when you think about really across the ands. So often I'm saying stay curious about the and. This conversation is reminding me about connection. I talk about connection a lot. You're reminding us that connection is multi pronged. So remembering the power of connection and just to name that too as a tool. You didn't call that out necessarily in that way, but to remind us it's it is the tool for all of it, in particular navigating uncertainty and change and
Yeah.
fear and shame. So maybe as takeaways, the power of breath, the power of connection as not, little side things to ponder when we have time, but really as fuel. Megan, for people listening, help connect us. So, as you introduce yourself in the work that you do, even maybe anchored to this conversation, are you primarily helping? Because I want to let folks know where to find you. Primarily working with individuals at this point? Are you working with teams and organizations?
I'm actually my new kind of rebrand focuses more on teams, organizations,
Okay.
and culture shifting
Okay.
within entities. So I think I will always work with individuals to some extent, but I'm really focusing on people who identify as purpose-driven leaders or impact makers, the people who are like this, the old way isn't working. What do I do? How do I do this? So I've got a couple different things, and I'm doing a lot more public speaking and facilitation because those are big joys of mine. Because 1 + 1 = 6,000 when we're talking about community. Teamwork amplifies exponentially the impact.
So in culture shift, I want to drill down another layer. If people, what would people be experiencing in their organizations to go, Megan can help us solve for this? What's the pain
Well,
point? What's the pain point that would point them? I want it to be really clear for people when they should
yeah.
think about you. And usually that comes from a we're experiencing this, who's the person?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of portals, but the main essence is the world or the context around what we're doing is changing beyond our control, or the things that used to work aren't, and we keep doubling down on what used to work and it's not working and people are suffering, and the the energy and vibe of this is not
The vibe.
feeling right.
Yeah.
I come in and help create a different ecosystem that can tap into creative intelligence to evolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if y'all have things going on and the vibe just not right or how you imagine it could be,
Stuckness. I help
yeah, if
people
you're
get out of
feeling
stuckness.
well and stuck in a specific way, right? There's
Mhm.
nuance because they're
Yep.
stuck in a lot of ways in
Yep.
organizations, but stuck in culture, stuck in a vibe that feels like it's not fully realizing. Because you and I talked in this episode about collective potential.
Yeah.
Sometimes I call it collaborative advantage, but there's a certain alchemy and a certain magic that we all know and have experienced to get there. And if the vibe is off, the famous Megan O'Malley might be able to help you with that. So, how do people find you with your rebrand, socials? And we will put the show notes will have all this, but just to remind us, is it TED Talk? Y'all listen to Megan's TED Talk?
Yes. Yep. Unshakable. Um, the power of connection when everything is crumbling is my
Awesome.
TEDx that should be out soon, probably by the time this episode airs. I've got a book that I co-authored called Unstuck Yourself, Thrive Beyond Burnout and Discover Your True Purpose, which is pretty great. We're getting some great feedback on that. And you can find all of the things, including information about my podcast and offerings at megan-o'malley.com. And that's MEGHAN-O'Malley.com. If you don't put the dash in, you're going to find your way to Megan O'Malley, the New York City comedian. That's not me.
That's a different famous Megan O'Malley.
Yeah. Yeah. She sent me an email several months ago that was hilarious because somebody was trying to do some book PR pitching to me. And she was like, I think this is you. Megan O'Malley, this is Megan O'Malley. So that's not me.
See, all the Megan O'Malleys are famous. That's a super fun story. I'm so grateful for you wading into the complexity of this one with me. I'm gonna think about, in particular, I think some of my takeaways from this one are to think about I wanna think about surrender differently. I feel like I've added new language that feels more aligned, that doesn't feel passive
Hmm. Yeah.
and that
Co-creative surrender.
yeah, co-creative, I think acceptance is a piece of it. So, thanks to everybody for hanging in with us. So again, y'all can check out the show notes for Megan's content. Reminder, stay curious, take some breaths, some slow exhale breaths. We are humaning and lifing right there with you. You are not alone in the need to take breaths, in the imagining of a future that's beautiful, the second guessing of your role in it. We're right there with you, cheering you on. Hope you'll share the episode with somebody if it resonates, and we look forward to having y'all with us next time. Thank you. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
The Stand in the And podcast is supported by Human Centered Strategy, where we help leaders and teams build connection and strategy and complexity so that everyone can flourish. To learn more or to work with us, Please visit us online at humancenteredstrategy.com or message me on LinkedIn.